when you look up at the clouds and you just see a dragon? Or maybe you're staring at the front of a car and suddenly you see a face smiling right back at you? Well, that isn't just you being creative. That's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do, find patterns. Okay, so let's dive into this amazing and kind of weird quirk of the human mind. So this whole thing really hit the big time back in 1976 with this picture from Mars. People saw this rock formation in a place called Cydonia. And, they saw a face, unmistakably. It caused a massive sensation, right? People started spinning theories about ancient Martian civilizations. Of course, it turned out to be just a trick of the light on a totally natural rock formation, but our brains just couldn't help themselves. They connected the dots.
And of course, this isn't just happening on other planets. It happens right here, sometimes in the most ordinary places you can imagine. Like this piece of toast. One minute you're making breakfast, the next, it's staring back at you. Get this. Back in 2004, a grilled cheese sandwich that supposedly had the face of the Virgin Mary on it actually sold for $28,000. It just goes to show, our minds are desperate to find meaning, absolutely everywhere.
Or how about this one? Come on, we've all done this. Lying in the grass, just watching the clouds float by. You see a rabbit, a ship, maybe a whale. It's a totally universal human thing. Our minds are just constantly scanning, searching, trying to make sense of these fuzzy random shapes. But why? So that really is the big question, isn't it? What is going on here? Is our brain just glitching out? Or is there some deeper, more important reason for this strange and kind of wonderful tendency? Well, to get to the answer, we have to go deep. Deep into our evolutionary past. Okay, so let's put a name to this. This thing, this tendency to see faces and patterns everywhere, it's not just some weird quirk. It's a real, well-documented phenomenon with a pretty fascinating scientific backstory. The big, overarching term for this is apophenia. It's just our brain's default setting to find connections in random, totally meaningless data. And this can be anything: sounds, events, numbers. It's the engine that drives conspiracy theories, connecting unrelated events into a giant plot. It's what makes a gambler think they're on a hot streak. And that thing we've been talking about, seeing faces in toast or animals in clouds, that has its own, more specific name: pareidolia. Think of it as a visual type of apophenia, and it is especially powerful when it comes to faces. It really seems like our brains are uniquely hardwired for this one. So why is that? All right, so really get to the why, we gotta go back, like way, way back. We need to get a handle on the basic operating system our brains are running, an ancient system that was designed for a very, very different world than the one we live in today. For the longest time, the main idea was that the human mind is basically a blank slate at birth, and everything we know comes from our culture and our experiences. But there's another view, from evolutionary psychology, that says the mind is a lot more like a Swiss Army knife. It comes preloaded with all these specialized tools, each one designed by natural selection to solve a very specific problem. So what this really means is that our minds aren't just one big general-purpose computer. Nope. They're a collection of thousands and thousands of specialized circuits. We have circuits for learning language, circuits for finding our way around, circuits for navigating social situations, and, you guessed it, we have circuits specifically for recognizing faces. This is a fantastic way to see how these psychologists work. They start with a problem our ancient ancestors had to solve to survive. Like, say, how do I tell a friend from an enemy and fast? That's the adaptive problem. From there, they try to figure out what kind of cognitive program or mental software would solve that. And then finally, they look for the actual wiring in the brain that runs that program. The brilliant psychologist William James called this instinct blindness. It's a powerful idea. Our most basic mental programs, our instincts, work so well and so automatically that we don't even realize they're there. They just feel natural. We have to really train ourselves to make the natural seem strange, as he puts it, just to even start asking why we do the things we do. So if these instincts, like spotting faces, are so automatic we can't even see them, how do they work so fast? Well, that takes us from the why to the how. And the answer is all about the brain's built-in shortcuts. Okay, so why faces? Why are we so obsessed with them? Picture one of our ancestors on the savannah. The ability to instantly spot a face, whether it was a predator hiding in the grass or another human, friend or foe, that was a huge survival advantage.
Now, this system had to be fast, not perfect, so the brain went with a better safe than sorry strategy. A false positive, seeing a face in a cloud, costs you absolutely nothing. But a false negative, failing to see the tiger hiding in the bushes, well, that could cost you everything.
And this kind of mental shortcut, it's got a name, a heuristic. Heuristics are basically the brain's rules of thumb. They are incredibly efficient, letting us make quick judgments without having to stop and do a full logical workup every single time. And they usually work pretty well, but they can also lead to predictable, systematic mistakes.
The guys who really blew this wide open were the psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. They identified a bunch of these key heuristics. And our old friend Pareidolia, seeing faces and things, is a perfect example of what they called the representativeness heuristic. A random pattern of shadows on toast resembles our brain's mental prototype of a face, so our brain just jumps to the conclusion that it is a face. And shortcuts like this are shaping our thinking in countless ways, every single day, mostly without us ever noticing.
So these shortcuts are baked into our hardware. They're part of our evolutionary inheritance, and they absolutely helped us survive. But what happens when you run that ancient software in our modern, information-overloaded worlds? Well, that's when the bugs can really start to show.
The exact same mechanism, apophenia, that makes us see a face in our toast can also make us see sinister connections between unrelated news events, which can lead right into conspiracy theories. It's what makes us feel like a random string of luck at the casino is some kind of meaningful pattern, telling us we're due for a big win. Our pattern detector, in other words, can be hijacked.
Here's William James again, and he just nails this idea with this fantastic, kind of funny quote. To a hen, a nest full of eggs is the most fascinating, most important thing in the entire universe. The idea that some other creature wouldn't feel the same way would seem monstrous to her. And it's the same for us. The patterns we see feel completely real, totally self-evident. And that makes it incredibly hard to step back and question our own gut feelings.
So, if our brains are hardwired for these biases, are we just stuck? Are we doomed to be deceived by them? Absolutely not. We can't change the hardware, no, but we can install better software. And that software is scientific thinking.
This right here is our toolkit for debugging our own minds. When you think you see a pattern, you can ask these questions. Have I thought of other explanations? Just because two things happened together, does that really mean one caused the other? Is there any way my idea could be proven false? Has anyone else been able to find the same thing? Is the evidence as big as the claim is wild? And finally, is there a much simpler explanation for this? So look, the key takeaway here is this. The goal isn't to try and turn off your instincts or stop seeing patterns. That's impossible. It's what our brains do. The goal is to build the habit of mind where you feel that flash of recognition, that aha moment, and then you just pause and you use these tools to check if that pattern actually holds up.
At the end of the day, we are all meaning-seeking animals, using an ancient brain to get by in a very modern world. And the patterns that brain finds can lead to incredible wonder and discovery, but they can also lead us way off track. The challenge for all of us is to find the wisdom to know the difference.